Welcome to the Spinwhiz Comic Show.
Whoa.
From Raleigh, North Carolina. Join us for exclusive interviews with the publishers bringing you the newest titles in indie comics, webcomics, movies, and more.
No way.
And now, here's your host, Jeff Palumbo.
Abilities. And so he comes home after there's some disappearances or killings, I should say, of some of the villagers or townsfolks, and it's a little bit more than the sheriff is equipped to handle. So he comes home and tries to help her out. Issue 1, they go into the forest and kind of encounter some little beastie creatures that are not of the human nature, and it kind of ends on a cliffhanger when Drexler comes face to face with this giant, let's just say a monster. I won't be too descriptive. That's the end of issue 1. Mm-hmm. Issue 2 kind of picks up right where the first one left off. And essentially Drexler and the small crew that were out in the forest are now lost and trying to find their way back to the town. Meanwhile, there's some drama happening in town. I think actually in issue 3, the drama happens in town where some of the bad guys that Drexler had fought in issue 1 that we thought were dead are starting to converge to town looking for Drexler, because Drexler in issue 1, I know I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. I'm not really good. A writer or so I'm just kind of getting me broad strokes and like, oh yeah, this happened, then this happened, and this is why. But anyways, so one of the bad guys Drexler initially fought in issue 1 survived their encounter. Drexler had stolen some sort of secret weapon off of him, and he wants it back, basically. So in issue 3, he's coming back. He's coming to town. He's coming to get what he thinks was stolen from him. And also we get a little bit of an idea of what happened in the past over the first 3 issues. The third issue, we're kind of going to see exactly what it is. We kind of get a little bit of a hint in issue 2 that caused Drexler to get kicked out of town and for like the townspeople to turn their back on him and whatnot. So that's Drexler in a nutshell. I probably didn't sell that very well, but it is pretty cool, I think.
I think you did great. I think you did great. So let me read everybody the synopsis you sent me for Drexler #1, because I think it's perfect. As just a lot of people like get into these paragraphs of a summary, and you gave me one sentence with a ... to end it off. Like, that's it. Like, you just like, nope, this is what it is. And all it says is abducted. A small town will unleash a monster to save them from something worse. That's it. That's what you got me. That's nice. That hooks me. Yeah. That in a nutshell is Drexler #1. And I want everybody to go read it. It's action, it's adventure. I would even say it's a little sci-fi-ish.
Yeah, definitely.
If not
even more so in issue 3, it'll really hit that sci-fi checkbox.
Okay. See?
After issue 3, so yeah.
That's awesome. And you have some people with you on this too. So I know Bob Saley. Mm-hmm. Is this the same Bob Saley that was on our show and writes for Source Point Press? Is that the same Bob Saley that is helping you out?
It is the same Bob Saley. Yes.
Oh, I feel bad for you. I actually like Bob. It's it's a lot of the Source Point Press guys I give shit to. Like, well, I won't even say his name because now he makes fun of me because every time I'm on, I bring him up. So never mind. But Bob Saley is the man. He was only on a couple weeks ago, and we talked about Drexler.
Oh, did he? Oh, okay, cool.
Yep. So, who else is on the team? Is it the same team with 1, 2, and 3?
The first 2 issues, Bob wrote the script for those.
Oh, damn!
The first issue was written by Bob, colored by Don Mathias, lettered by HDE, and drawn by me. Second issue, same team except for we picked up Marco Pagnota for colors. And third issue, Marco again is on the colors. And this time on the third issue, it's written and drawn by me. Bob is editing. And that's going to be basically for issue 3. And it's going to finish in issue 4, which I'm actually about halfway through the line art for right now. So and it'll be me writing and drawing again issue 4. So
damn, good for talk
about
multi-talented.
Well, we'll see. We'll see after the 3rd issue.
I like
people read it and be like, "What?"
So we got people. We got people talking about you in chat. Bill Stoddard says, and Rob Nugent, both of them say I need to hire Nathan for my elevator pitches. So
yeah, no, you don't want to do that.
You obviously did a great job. I mean, the summary is written perfect. I'm not going to give Bob credit for any of that. I'm going to say that was all you.
You know what? Sure, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I really can't remember.
That's fine. Bob's got enough going
back.
on. You can take a little credit.
Yeah.
I think he'll be all right. So how long does it usually take you to write? And I mean, you're writing and drawing this time. Well, for 3 and 4. How long does it usually take you to knock one out?
All right. So it's gotten a bit faster. Before, for the first 2 issues, I didn't have a whole lot of time to draw. It was kind of like a couple nights a week where I would have a couple hours in the evening to draw. Now it's getting to the point where every night I set aside a little block of time and I'm at it. Writing wise though, writing is a pain for me. So it's kind of like trying to figure out your own process. Like in this industry, I don't think there's one way to do anything. It's just kind of figuring out what works best for you to tell the story that you're trying to tell. So for me, it since I'm writing and drawing, technically writing, I say that in quotations, I will essentially outline the issue, like what happens from start to finish. I'll just outline like what happens on each page and I'll just draw it. I'll just kind of like read my little blurb and be like, okay, let me just panel it out and draw it. And then when that's done, I'll go back and kind of like, because as you're drawing it, you kind of get a sense of like what the characters are saying. At least I do in my head, like, oh, okay, so this happens, and he's gonna be like, oh no, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And then you go back when it's all done, and I'll look at it and be like, okay, let me refine the dialogue somewhat, and that's kind of interesting, is trying to get the dialogue. Because it's easy to come up with some like what cool thing to say, like this guy's gonna say this, and it's like a paragraph long. It's like, well, that's not gonna fit.
Right.
So it's a process of like whittling away this big chunk of text that you think is so cool into like 2 sentences, and trying to get the gist home. So that's an interesting process. But you know, that's the way it goes, and hopefully the 3rd issue will read all right. Hopefully, we'll see.
So you're almost reverse engineering it, and you're kind of building the scene as you go, and then you're like, okay, does this? Because you must change certain things as you're drawing it. You'd be like, oh, this would be badass, or this, or I have to do this, and you go back and be like, oh, those words did not match. Like we need to change the dialogue now.
I can make it do and say whatever I want. It's kind of like I have all the power now. It's a cool feeling. At the same time, it's like extra work as well, in a sense. But it's all good. You know, it's part of being a comic. It's one of the things of, you know, I always envy those comic creators that can do it all. Like write, draw, color, everything. I can't color, so that's like the one key thing in my armoire or my repertoire that was like falling way short. But you know, writing, I'm kind of trying to get my feet wet, figure it out. It'll be different though, trying to conceptualize an entire story myself from start to finish. I had Bob to help me with this initially. So moving forward for whatever projects I come up with next, I don't know if I want to take that on 100% myself or partner with somebody. I do like collaborating. I like that process of bouncing ideas off other people and whatnot. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, this time around, yeah, it's me. So hopefully people like it.
All the power, and you're like, damn, at the same time. So now, because now you only have yourself to blame partially. Like you got to take the full hit.
And that's fine. Yeah, good or bad. That's my cross to bear. So we'll see if people like it or not.
I'm sure they are. I mean, and you said Bob's editing, and he's not going to let you fail either. I mean, the dude knows what he's doing.
Well,
so
hopefully.
I mean, true. Yeah, that's right. So, Rob Nugent coming in saying, why did you decide to take over writing from Bob? Are you allowed to talk about that? Or
I did not decide to take over writing. What happened was Bob exploded in his own little Bob sphere. So when he jumped onto the Source Point crew, his like duties and responsibilities and projects just kind of exploded, and just couldn't take on the extra load of writing Drexler. So it's kind of like, well, I've got this thing here, and I can either just let it sink or try and bail us out and keep us floating. So that's kind of the approach I'm taking for Drex. So hopefully people like it.
I have no doubt that they will. I mean, that's not me coming from like I'm Jeff and we're partners. It's coming from a guy who likes the Drexler series, and I think you're going to do great. Everything's perfect. And the art's, I will say that the art style is a little bit different than, it's not anything with that. So anybody out there that's watching, I would definitely not consider it traditional. Like, you're not looking at Marvel and DC lines and colors. It is a really neat, different style that pulls everything together. I mean, you still use the overlapping frames and stuff like that. Like, those stylistic pieces are there from a sequential perspective. But the art itself is so sharp, but it's colored and inked so differently that it gives the book an entirely different feel. Did you do that on purpose? Is that just your style? Or were you just like, nope, this is what you got for me and that's it? Or did you learn, like, develop your own style by yourself?
Well, yeah, that's a style that I eventually sort of developed. I mean, growing up, you're trying to draw, and you're looking around at different inspirations, and you're like, oh, that guy draws really cool. I'm gonna try and draw like him. I'm gonna draw like this. I'm gonna draw like that, and eventually, you gotta figure out like what you like what works for you, or you find something that really clicks, and you see something, and it's like, that's it. I'm going to try and draw in that style. And that's kind of what happened for me. Growing up, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Greg Capullo, even J. Scott Campbell, I would try and draw like all these guys, Mark Silvestri, and I couldn't. It was just like, no, there's no way. Like I could even emulate those guys very well. And then I kind of put the pencil down for a few years, and came back to comics, and I started reading 100 Bullets and Hellboy. And that really hyper contrast style clicked with me, and I was like, I want to draw like that. And that's sort of basically where I got my style from. I looked at those guys, and I was just like trying to emulate what they do. In my own little way. I work 100% digitally, and I get really heavy with my ink lines, sometimes a little bit too heavy. But that's kind of where that comes from. And then coloring wise,
I wouldn't say too heavy. I'd say perfect.
Well, okay. Well, thank you. It's always a work in progress. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of where that comes from. And then colors, I don't know how to color very well, but it's sort of those things where you see somebody else do it, and it's like either it's great or it's not. You know what I mean? And I saw some of Marco's work, and I was like, oh, yeah, I want to get this guy. I want him to color my stuff, and fortunately, I was able to afford him, so it's kind of worked out since. But yeah, DeMarco is brilliant. His coloring is amazing.
Yeah,
to me, sure. It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Rob Nugent says that he thinks Bob just got lazy. He'd be like, it sounds like Bob got lazy, just left it with you. It's messed up. I hope Bob Sally's not on right now, because he's working with Rob on other stuff. So that's gonna be a fun conversation for him to have later with Broken Gargoyles. Enjoy that. So I think you do an amazing job, man. The art is, I like it because it's different. I tend to gravitate towards, don't get me wrong, I grew up in the 80s and early 90s reading comics. So I have a very particular style that I usually gravitate to. But as I got older, especially with Marvel and DC, I found out that I didn't really like those styles. And I'm finding that the ones that are just off tilt just a little bit, that do have the high contrast colors, the deep inks, you're creating shadow with the inks and then overlaying it with a darker color. Like, you're really letting a lot of at least in my opinion, this is just my opinion, you're letting a lot of the inks do a lot of the talking, where I think a lot of people do it the reverse, where they want the lines kind of covered up and let the color do the talking. I think you do a good job of balancing it, and things that you want to pop out strong. Yeah. And the other stuff is meant to be dark. And I think that is what I think is great about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of, at least I hope, a lot of implied detail rather than actual, extraneous line work and whatnot, which is what I try and go for. A lot of the times, a lot of the story takes place in the forest, right? And very early on, like basically the first page of the first issue, I decided I hate drawing trees. So a lot of the trees are just silhouettes, or just see bits of it to imply that that's a tree. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's kind of like the essence of kind of what I'm going for stylistically, I guess, if that makes sense. Is try to imply detail without going into too much detail wherever possible. Like, if I could get away with silhouetting an entire page, I'd do it. Haven't had that opportunity yet, but that's going to be my goal. I'm going to try and do that one day.
one big
page.
Double. Yeah. I want to see a double wide of just a silhouette.
Just silhouettes. Everything's silhouetted.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the creator, man. You can do whatever you want. When you're the boss, you get to make it happen.
Yeah, I know, right?
I love it.
Yeah, I'm going to make it happen.
Do it. I love it.
It's coming.
And then you can say, I got this idea when I was on,
Spinwhiz.
Talking to Jeff. And we're on the Spinwhiz podcast, and Jeff was talking about my stuff. I'm like, I'd really like to do that, and I hate trees. So, and now I have to go back and read Drexler #1, because it didn't occur to me that you didn't draw the trees. As
it goes on, you'll see I draw trees less and less.
You really do hate trees, or at least drawing them. That's awesome. I have to go back and read it, because it didn't pop out that they weren't. Your mind obviously takes you to where you want it to go, and I think the eye movement of the patterns is really good too. Like, the good thing is you can read your comic and get the gist without reading the comic, if that makes sense. But I think that I didn't notice there weren't trees. I think I just thought there were trees. Like, my mind said these are trees.
It worked. My Jedi mind trick worked on you. That's great.
So now I have to go back through it and be like, holy shit, these are not trees. Like, these are the worst trees I've ever seen. And then I'll send you a text and I'll be like, dude, you really don't like trees. Like, is this a pun, or is this literally just a green blob? So awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's get back to the Kickstarter. How much longer do we have here? I'm going to pop this sucker up.
We're pretty early in. We're less than a week in so far. So
and you're already 67% to goal?
Yep, apparently.
I mean, that's amazing. I'm dropping the link in right now for everybody that wants to participate in the Kickstarter and check it out. Now, I will tell everybody, if you're on YouTube, not watching live, but you're on YouTube, just scroll down. The link's right there. It's not like you have to go find it. Just scroll. Take your little wheel that you probably have on your controller, and just whoop, like a quarter of an inch, and you'll see it. Just click on it. It'll be great. And for those that might want to take a little nibble first on Spinwhiz Comics, we have it. We have issue #1. You can take that right there. That link also in the chat. So make sure you go check it out. We've already been on for like 20 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it is, you know, it's just, I guess it's me. It's my stunning personality that just keeps the conversation going. But with Drexler, you said it's going to wrap in 4. Probably making a trade paperback. Are you already thinking?
Go ahead.
Are you already thinking about what's after Drexler?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've already, whatever. Yeah, I've already got another project lined up.
Wow.
The one I already have a complete issue drawn. Actually, it's interesting. What happened with that was after Drexler number 2 came out, and it was sort of like a waiting phase. I was kind of like, is Bob going to be able to write this next issue? And then I started talking to some other folks about doing something else, and we got the ball spinning on that. And then Bob was like, well, I can't write the issue, but you should definitely keep going. And then he kind of worked out the deal with Scout Comics, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let's get this Drexler thing going again. And that's sort of how that all came about. So I have another book that's, the first issue is finished. It's just sitting there waiting for me to get back to it once I finish Drexler, plus another kind of project that's been brewing in my mind. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's definitely stuff going on after Drex.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I don't want to see all the talent go to waste. So, because some people are like, dude, I got to get out. I'm done. Like, I'm going to wrap it. That's my baby, and that's it. But I'm glad to see that you are already working on other stuff.
Yeah. I'm always, I don't want to stay still and stagnant, I should say. I always want to have something kind of going on, like whether this drawing thing, works out financially or beyond, Kickstarter or whatever. It's something I enjoy. I just enjoy doing it. So like telling stories, my own stories, I should say, is kind of like just the thing that keeps me, I guess, sane. Mm-hmm. So I'll be doing this regardless of whether it ever comes out or not. So there's always going to be something going on.
Well, I have 4 different comics I want to write. I have 4 outlines of different titles. Yeah. And I can't get to them, and not for a bad thing. It's just that I have the ideas, but I'm so busy building Spinwhiz and trying to get everybody promoted and trying to get everything in that at the end of the night, I'm toast. Like working all day, hanging with the family, having fun, trying to spend quality time, and then working on Spinwhiz at night on operational stuff or what the next promo is going to be, or what interviews are actually the one thing that I really look forward to. I don't look forward to paperwork.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Paperwork is not fun. Or going through like all the different contracts that I have to work on, whether it be with a promotional company or analytics company or whoever we are. Oh, good Lord. So this is my, even though I can't write right now, this is my release, is that I get to talk to great people that I work with in a way. Twice a week, and we get to know each other, and then when we get to travel again, we get to hang out and have a drink, and it's just like kind of stepping into a friendship you've had for a long time, and it's nice.
It's like, the podcast thing is kind of like snuck up on me. It's something that I was aware of, kind of like, and it's kind of gotten more and more, I guess, mainstream, and it was just like, that looks like fun. Like I wish I had some time to do a podcast or just host a pod. Like, there's something that in the back of my mind, I don't know. It's something that I'm kind of contemplating. Like, could I actually do this podcast thing?
You could. If I can do it, you're fine. You could easily crush it. No problem.
I just don't think I have the conversational chops to carry it off for very long. So, I mean, 30 minutes and I think I'm done.
But I'm not even doing anything. Like, you could do this. All I'm doing is asking you questions. You're doing all the talking.
Yeah. It's pretty slick, huh?
Yeah, I have 7 questions, and you filled almost 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll teach you my tricks, man.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll teach you my tricks, and then you can take my job. You can be like, all right, we're bringing in Nathan Kelly to do all our interviews from now on.
It all go to shit then. Don't do that.
Well, listen, man, we are running out of time. Anything else you want to talk about before you take off?
No. Yeah. Hopefully you guys will go out and check out the Kickstarter and help us get to that goal line. That's it, man. Just trying to make a comic book.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, it's still here, just so everybody knows. That wasn't supposed to go on. Just so everybody knows, it is up and running right now. Links are in the chat. Links are below if you're on YouTube. Remember, you can read issue number 1 on Spinwhiz if you want to get a little taste, but you can get all the prints 1 through 3 on the Kickstarter. And this is probably one of the only times you're actually going to be able to get a lot of print and some variant covers and some other stuff. So especially if you get them in a stretch, you might be able to send Nathan a little note and be like, hey, what do you think about this? If he runs through all his stretches, he doubles or triples. I'm sure he'd want to hear about that. He's a good guy. So listen, man, hang on the line for me just a minute. I'm going to log off or sign off, and then we'll get back into the mix. Hang with me just 1 second. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our show tonight. Like I told you, Nathan Kelly, amazing, right? Like, the dude is ultra talented and super humble, and his content is great. It looks different than anything you've probably ever seen. It reads well. It flows well. It's everything you'd want in a comic, especially if you're into sci-fi. Again, I haven't seen issue number 3 yet. I've only read number 1 and number 2. So I haven't seen number 3. If it's even more sci-fi, I'm in. I'm down. But the Kickstarter link is in there. Make sure you go check it out. But if you need that little bit first, you can get it on spinwhizcomics.com or get it on our iOS or Android app. Just search Drexler and it pops right up. You can't miss it. Everybody have a great night. We're going to be back Wednesday. Let me see. Who do we got coming up? On Wednesday, we have, we have Russell Nolte on Wednesday from Wannabe Press, then Mike Tenner and his crew, Joe Valen after that, then Nick Cannon, Brian Silverbacks will actually be here on the 7th, and then Adam Barnhart will be here on the 14th, so we have quite a few Scout comic people kind of coming up, which is great. I mean, the more the merrier. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Hope this brings you in. And if you're listening on Monday morning, I hope my voice is bringing you right through your morning coffee. Thank you so much for being here. Remember to go support Nathan Kelly. If you like it, buy it. Hook him up. If you can't buy it, share it. Tell people about it. We appreciate it greatly. Support indie comics. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. We'll talk to you all soon. Later.